at 1:03 p.m. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing or hearing none, then we will move on to the business for which the meeting was called. Item 3.1 is road work as it relates to Royal Pines, and I will ask staff to bring forward their report.
I don't know if everybody's had a chance to read the report. Basically, what this is, the original road plan for 2020 was revised after the RFP submissions came in more than $600,000 over budget. Council approved the plan to negotiate with the lowest bidder a reduction in work that would bring the overall project in line with the budgeted amount. Unfortunately, the reduction in work required the removal of work to be done on Royal Pines. Council expressed concern about dropping Royal Pines from the list and requested that staff could look at possibly doing something else on the road in 2020. Staff stated that some work could take place, some padding maybe with the operational funds within the regular budget. At this time, through staff and contractor diligence, and this is over the whole projects that we did, and favorable road conditions. And what that means is that over the winter, Island View and Gristmill did pretty good. We were able to cut down the budget amount for gravel, and with the reduction of other work, we proceeded, and we're actually, of the original budget, we have $219,622 remaining 23 cents. Also, we have been successful in being approved for our compensation for 2019, which included a portion, which is about $60,000 for McMillan. So that added to revenue gives us $279,000. So with the direction from staff, from council to look at what we could do, we went back to Royal Pines and looked at what could be accomplished this year. So Royal Pines is about 5.9 kilometers long. And the work that is easiest to complete in 2020 is the area at the beginning of Royal Pines at Highway 60 and the beginning of Royal Pines at County Road 30. So what we could do this year is basically the first 1.5 kilometers, it actually works at 1.4 kilometers from Highway 60 in, which you'll notice that all those dips and waves in there, that will be gone. And also the portion at County Road 30, because that, although it's gone, there's really good gravel under that. And the contractor and staff would give the best scenario is to work on those two ends. And if you look at it from the resident's point of view, because the resident would like the whole road done, if you do 3 kilometers at one end, the residents at one end are going to not be as happy as the other ones at the other end for 3 kilometers. But if you do the 1.5 kilometers in on each end, then the furthest someone should have to drive over the rougher road would be 1.5 kilometers if they're driving in from one end. The work in the center, there is one area by Smith Bay that's a considerable amount of effort to do. It should have some engineering, it would take some time to do. So we're suggesting that if our staff work on a few areas that we have some corduroy to get out of and go with the budget that we have remaining without impacting the budget or taking any money from anywhere else, we can finish the road to the 1.5 each end this year, and that would be gravel and tar and chip. Attached, just for council's convenience, this is the money we spent to date out of that $1,055,000. You'll notice the second column at the very bottom, there's a $6,400 expense on Traymore, which wasn't in the budget. This is a carryover of some driveway work that we had to finish from 2018 that just because of the late year last year, it had to be finished this year. So we were able to even include that in this amount. So basically with the McMillan Road from the disaster financial assistance, $60,000 and the $219,000 that we have because we were diligent doing the work on the other 5 roads, there's 279,000. So if we look at the original quote, this is the work I plan to do. So this is a breakdown. So in zone 1, which would be Highway 60 to Smiths Bay Road, that area, and we don't quite make it to Smiths Bay Road, we pulverize 1,400 meters. There's 100 meters pulverized by others. That's our own staff. Apply gravel to 1,400 meters, and final grading compacting 1,500 meters, and then 2 applications of surface treatment. And then zone 2, which is from Highway or County Road 30 to Germanicus, is pulverizing 1,500 meters, gravel application, final grading, and the 2 applications of surface treatment. There's 1 application of 50 meters. There is a large culvert that the county did that was asphalt. We're not going to disturb that asphalt. It doesn't make any sense, but to make it consistent with the rest of the road, we put surface treatment right over top of the asphalt. So the 2 other components is that we would do the 1 area on the Smiths Bay side. We're not going to go through the intersection of Germanicus because that adds a lot of money to the job actually, and that is a fairly good intersection of Germanicus, and our 1.4 doesn't get us to Smiths Bay. It just gets us going that way. The original contract price for that road was the 532. Most of that work is in the center where we're not working. So it's still another $300,000 needed. And then this is just the line of all the jobs that we had this year in that tender. So what I did for me to work with the consultant, I went back saying, let's do 2 kilometers and see what much it's going to cost. So actually not the consultant, the contractor. So this is a price of 158 for 2 kilometers. To do the 2.9, you have to add another 77,000. But I wanted to break that down for council. This is based on the numbers that were submitted. The first few numbers are negotiable because the traffic or the mobilization and demobilization is 4,000 here, but if you go back up here, their mobilization was 4,000 and the 6,500 for traffic control. I'm saying that I think the traffic control should be 3,200 or 3,500 because it's less work. So there's going to be a little bit of negotiating, but as far as the quantity amounts, like the $18 for the gravel and the entrance cuts, basically I cut those in half, it was $4,000. And then the pulverization, it's all unit prices. And then the surface treatment is based on unit prices too, to get the 7 meters. Now, if when they're doing the application, it's 6.5 meters in part of the road and they're just doing what's there, but that would bring the price down. But if it's 7.5, it brings the price up. So there's a little bit of contingency built into that. So I just to remind council, this was just telling you what you did. You said to work with the contractor and the Royal Pines be deferred to 2021. And the critical infrastructure issue is not an issue now at all. So I'll just go back up to the report and show you the recommendation is that we go ahead with that work, which is the 1.4 and the 1.5 as per the 2020 budget, original budget, and that we don't exceed that. Again, we're staying within the $1,055,000 and the $60,000 that we're getting as a financial aid for McMillan.
Was that for the flood?
That's for the flood for the last year. So it takes, we didn't put it as revenue because we didn't know we were actually going to get it. Because the flood from 2017, you didn't get it until 2 years later. So it's not adding any more money to the budget.
Was there any money from Backway Road on that too, or just from McMillan?
Oh, yes. So what I had said, it was all those projects, Melvin, that we did. So we went back and we look at all of these projects, the grist mill, Black Creek, which is is up there. We didn't spend what we said we were going to spend. We were able to do it, and again, it was through diligence and other work that we did. And some of the some of the other work with some of the stuff we did, we had to put gravel in the spring, so it was not counted. We saved money in one spot, so we were able to get that $1 million down to the 835. So we still have 219. Council asked, could we do something at Royal Pines? You can do considerable amount. You can do actually 2.9 kilometers, which is half the road this year if you choose to do that.
Let me read the resolution first, and then we can go on with the discussion. I have a resolution that council accepts the report and directs staff to proceed with work on Royal Pines Road, not to exceed $279,622.23. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Burnt. Councillor Robinson, your comments.
I guess, which is a question I think that Melvin was asking, because there were we made a couple of applications for it was McMillan Road, but there was someone who wasn't there.
Oh, so there was, could we go back, and those Green Lake Road was on last year, but that was from 2017, and we got that money last year, but the application for roads was only McMillan was the only road that was impacted in that flood. But we had other things that we put on there, and some gravel on Black Creek, which we're going to get, but the portion for McMillan, which is directly related to the 2020 projects, is the 60,000.
Okay, thank you.
Janet, did you have any questions?
Yeah, do we have to do an RFP or a tender, or like, are we contravening anything if we just go ahead and get Greenwood to do it? Do we have to do anything special?
So that's a good question. So what we did specifically with the original tender and the original contractor is we went back to the contractor and said, we've got to stay in what you originally quoted because we can't change that. Will you do it for the same amount that you quoted us for, that we approved that? So the answer is, you already tendered it, you had your quotes, and you determined that Greenwood was the lowest. And as long as Greenwood doesn't come and say, which they're not going to, the deal's going to be that it's the quoted numbers. As long as the prices don't change, then you're okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Burnt.
Yeah, the Greenwood tender was for the whole road. Now we're just doing part of it. So the
So,
numbers are going to change.
well, but the quantities, if we go back here, and I'll just go back up just to make it clear here. So what we're saying, and if you look at the original tender, and we look at I'm just trying to pick out one that's easy to do. So the pulverization was for 2,800 meters or 2,600 meters. And it was at $120, or sorry, $1.20. So when we did this one, we did the same, the quantities change, but the amounts don't. So what the contractor's doing is they're doing the same job for the same unit price. So what we've done is similar to when we reduced the scope of work. We're saying we're only doing 3 kilometers or 2.9 kilometers, but we want it to be the same unit price. Now, if this number was 1.6, then we would have to say that no, we have to go out and retender it, but the numbers don't change for the unit prices. We're not doing all the same work, but the unit prices are the same, so your tender is the same. So for example, the gravel is $18 a ton, and we go down here, and the gravel is $18 a ton. The only ones that I foresee that will change is I don't think that our traffic control, I said it's going to be $32.50, and we may have a little bit of negotiation because we're not doing as much work. So why should it be $6,500? We're doing half the work, so it should be half the price. Now the contractor could say, well, my traffic control, I need to bring a little bit more stuff in, and it's going to be $4,000. But again, the contractor can't say traffic control is over 65. His mobilization is going to be 4,000 because it's the same amount of equipment coming in. Environmental protection, which I lowered considerably because the other work is around the culverts and the swamps. So he had to put silt fences. The stuff that he's doing now is basically a high ground. So it's going to be less, but the quantities on everything will be less than the original job. There's some things that we won't be doing at all because you can see a lot of blanks here. We're not putting geotextile in because that was the original one, but they're not doing that part right now. So quantity wise, it changes, but unit price doesn't change. And again, like the driveways, I cut down the number of driveways because we're only doing half the road.
I mean, when you enter from Highway 60, you have to take out some of that corridor that's in there?
Yes, that's the one area, if you go back to the plan up here, there's 100 meters that it states in here that on the Highway 60 side, that'll be done by others, it'll be done by our staff, so we're gonna do that ourselves. So we'll be working on the corduroy, and then we'll have to put some gravel in and prepare it for them, so that's already accounted for here.
Would that be done after they chip the road or
Oh,
before?
no, it's done, it'll be done probably starting next week, if council approves this. We'll get right on it. Greenwood has indicated that they can do this before, I put before the end of the summer, but they've indicated they can do this in August. And if we get tar and chip down in August, it's really good.
Any other questions or comments? Janet, are you,
No, I'm good. Yeah, I understand what Mr. Sprent was saying about the units.
okay? So I will then call for the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes,
Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld,
Yes,
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
I'm a yes. So that's carried. Thank you very much. So item number 3.2 is a request to change the speed limit on Highway 60 at Deacon. And staff has prepared a report, but just a little bit of background. I had a call from our MPP, John Yakubuski. He's had calls from some of the residents on that road and a couple of the businesses. Their concern is that the 70-kilometer zone doesn't extend far enough on either side. One of the problems is the sight lines aren't great because you're coming off the bridge on the river and then you have to round a corner and then you hit the speed reduction, and when you're coming from the other side on McMillan Road, you come around the corner and then you hit the speed reduction. So that's one concern is the visibility. The other concern is the amount of foot traffic that happens, especially at the campsite where they cross over and they use the boat launch. People sometimes fish off the bridge. They do fish off the boat launch. So there's a concern about, the speed of the traffic that's going through, and it would be preferable if that could be lowered just before Krantz Road and extended to the other side of McMillan Road. So that's some of the background, and I'll let staff take it from there.
Okay, so the mayor brought this forward to me, and I drafted a letter, and it's basically a letter that would be, the information sort of that you want to put in there. Council can discuss it, but bigger than the letter, I don't know if you had a chance to read the letter, I put in a little bit of the process of how this works. Do you want me to read the letter, or council would just, basically, it's just a letter saying the areas that the mayor just described, and that we want it to be safe, and we want traffic slowed down in this area. There's no real detail of, that there was a death here or an accident here, but it's just saying that this area is very important to us and it's growing with more density. So the mayor and I were on a call a couple of weeks ago with the premier, and it was all the other municipalities talking. The town of the Blue Mountains, when it came down to question period, asked directly, can you reduce the speed limit on Highway 26 at Craig Lake or Retchell Park? And the premier said, sure. So So I thought, well, let's look at the town of Blue Mountain and see what actually happens there. So attached to the agenda, there's a staff report from the town of Blue Mountains. Now, the town of Blue Mountains is quite bigger than us, and they're actually a very wealthy town, and they have engineers on staff, and they can spend a lot of money. So they did a lot of work on their recommendations and talking, and this is for the area by Peel Street on Highway 26 and coming in Meaford. So you can review that one. I'm just going to skim through it, but that's the reports to council, and they put a lot of work into it. So they wrote a letter to the Minister of Transportation in the office of London. We had our counterpart would be Kingston. And then they actually did their line to where they wanted it. And then, and that's just the authorization, that's the resolution of council. And then here's the reply. This is going to be the standard reply when you ask the ministry something like this. So basically, they're going to tell you that research has shown that lowered speed limit is not likely to reduce vehicle speeds where drivers do not see a reason to slow down. The principles of driver expectation suggest that lower speed limits are associated with build-up areas that have numerous accesses to and from the highway. Ministry staff conducted a field review and a spot speed study along Highway 26 on July 11th. The study was within the existing 80-kilometer speed zone west end of Thornbury to confirm the existing operating conditions. In general, it was found that 85% of eastbound traffic was traveling below 89 kilometers an hour, while 85% of the traffic was traveling below 86. So based on the accepted engineering principles, our review confirms that existing regulatory speed limit of 80 kilometers for this section of Highway 26 is appropriate. So what that means, and again, this is a good one to look at. When the ministry takes this, they have a matrix that they use. So if you look at this sheet here, this is how they set the guidelines up. So you can see that that's the section of road, and they have a report card. So basically, they look at the road itself, they look at the lane width, they look at the roadside hazards, pedestrian exposure, cyclist exposure, pavement surface, and then they go into the intersections with the roads, intersections with driveways, and then if you look under the risk category, it's number of occurrences. So when the ministry looks at this, they're going to say, well, at this road at McMillan, we've never had a car accident. So there's going to, the number there's going to be 0. So even on this busy road, which I actually have a traffic count for this road, which is 6,800 traffic movements a day. The risk score was 33, so very low. And it's determined that it should be 80. So what I did is, just for information, this is the letter after asking Doug Ford, and he said, sure. They wrote a letter to him just to remind him. And they put in that they don't have the bylaw to enforce anything on the road, like parking and everything. So there isn't an answer back yet. Just for our information, like, see if I can flip it, but I'm not sure. Laura says I can, and I see I can't. But
you have to go right in the document. Now right click. Just right click in there. See, rotate clockwise.
okay, so that's going to rotate everything forever now.
Couple
Yeah.
times.
Do it again.
Now you got something.
Yeah.
Just stay on the document.
Rotate again.
And one more to do it.
One more.
I'm going to come back and do that again. I won't do that. Okay. Okay, so here we go. If we look at Road 30 in Lake Dory, was the closest I could get. I'll just try to pull that up for you. And over a little bit. So you're looking around 3,000 movements a day. And this is the guides that the province puts it up, you can actually go into this site, and you can get every highway in the province. This is how you generally know the speeds are going. So the other thing I looked at is, well, you know, what were they? Well, they were down here, and we go to that Peel Street, is where they were talking about. It's 6,800 movements a day. So they didn't get it, and they have twice as much traffic. Not saying that we're not going to get it. I'm just saying that that's challenges, and that's what the ministry looks at. In our letter, if the council desires to send that letter, we basically did the same thing as the town of Blue Mountains. We put a zone in that we want it to be extended to. Because right now it's a little bit short of that. So at Krantz Road, basically coming east, you want it to be about 100 meters before the road, because there's no point in slowing traffic down after the road, because that's what people are turning into the road. And at the other end of McMillan, we wanted it to be a couple hundred meters before McMillan, because there's that sort of knoll in the corner there. So there would be a sign probably with, you see the X here, that would be, you know, slower or speed reduction zone ahead, and there would be a sign way over here that says speed reduction ahead. So this is what the map would look like. The letter and what the resolution's asking for is that if council desires it, then staff would write a letter, and I've already done a draft here for you. Unfortunately, I don't have any accidents or anything to put in there. I can only say that it's a good idea because there's lots of people around and this area is built up. The fact that the Minister of Natural Resources is in this area and talk to the mayor, maybe that's also going to help. In our letter, we would also, as you see down here, we've copied the Premier, because he seems to say yes a lot. And we've copied John Yakubuski and also the warden, because it's a county concern too. And I would suggest that we didn't put it on there. I neglected to tell Laura we should do the final one, that we would put Kildare OPP on there too, and just get their comments on there. So that's, if council desires the resolution that's read, I think, is just that council authorize staff to write a letter, and then the mayor sends it out.
So I'll read the resolution. The resolution says that council authorizes the chief administrative officer to draft a letter requesting speed reduction on Highway 60 at Deakin to be reduced between 100 meters prior to Krantz Road and 200 meters east beyond McMillan Road, and the letter be sent to Minister Caroline Mulrooney, who's the Minister of Transportation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Just to add to what Andrew has said, in speaking with John Yakubuski, he was already in touch. Well, he hadn't been talking to, because the staff sergeant for Killaloe was on holidays. But as soon as he's back from holidays, he said he will be in touch with him to explain the rationale behind the request for a speed reduction. It has to originate, though, from our municipality, and that's why he was calling to see if our council would support it. And the other thing he was going to do was, as well, have a conversation with Caroline Mulrooney to give her a little bit of background and history. And correct me if I'm wrong, Melvin, you might remember, was there not a motorcycle accident on McMillan Road a couple of years ago? Where somebody was
There
seriously
was something
hurt?
there, yeah.
I'm sure it was a fellow on a motorcycle that got hit there. Anyway.
No, I think there was something there. Right on that corner of McMillan Road.
Mm-hmm.
So with my letter.
Yeah, there was one of that.
The reason I said that we would draft a letter is I did draft a letter, but I've been talking to the fire department. And if I can get one of those things, or talking to the newspaper, then I can add it to the letter, because it would add some meat to the letter. That's why I said it in the draft letter. That's the letter as it stands now, but if I could find something else to put it in, I'll add that to it.
I would think the leader would probably have
And I'm going to be talking directly.
that information.
Yeah. That is a bad turnoff there on McMillan Road off Highway 60 if you're going west.
Yes.
Because if you're stopped there, turn left, and the car's coming from Calhoun, and there's a big tractor trailer comes around that corner behind you. I had it happen once, and he just got stopped behind me in time. But they come, and the speed limit is 80.
Yes.
Everybody, 95% of people drive 100, just under 100.
Mhm.
You know, so then when you do the speed limit to 70, they only drop it like down to 90, 85 or 90. They don't drop it down to 70.
No.
No, I myself drive just under 100. I don't drive 80.
Oh, no.
I do slow down in Beacon. But I was last weekend, about this time last week, I went over to Deacon Bridge up there, and there must be kids out of the park, and I know they shouldn't be dumping up there. There was like 20 kids on the bridge at Deacon last Friday afternoon.
I know, it's busy in the summer.
It is.
And they crossed, they were allowed to go fishing at the
Yes.
boat dock.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Robinson, you got a comment?
No.
Oh, okay. Councillor Red.
So I even think maybe we should go further because the speed limit, oops, somebody was calling me. Anyway, I think like when I look at the speed limit just dropping from 70 to 80, that's to me not really significant. And I've gone to the sands themselves when it's been really busy and people are parking like across the road. And like to me, sometimes, you know, you're talking, you chat, and you forget that how busy that road is. I mean, so if it's just a draft letter, like why, instead of going, just extending that zone, why not even try and drop the speed limit from 70 to 60? In addition to that, I think there's a couple passing places you can pass from where you said McMillan Road, let's say to the Deacon Boat Launch. I think we should even get rid of the passing lanes. That whole section is very, very, very busy. Like, you know, with the turning at McMillan Road for the cottagers going down there, that makes a congestion there. Then I find it's really busy, of course, in front of the sands and the then continuing on to the Chinese restaurant. And then a little bit of a break, but once again, then once you hit that is it called Greystone Manor and stuff like that, then it seems like pedestrian and traffic starts to pick up there. So maybe it's something where it's like reduce the speed limit and get rid of those passing zones, because really, truly, they're not really needed there. Why? I mean, for a vehicle to pass there when the speed limit's already reduced, I don't think it's a good idea. So that's my 2 cents would be to further. I think it's really good to extend the zone, but then also decrease the speed limit. In addition to that, get rid of those 2 passing zones. And you know, we talked about, and I don't know the proper word for it, those speed traffic light things. You know, something right there would, I think, definitely draw attention to the fact you're speeding and you should slow down, because I think it's a kind of a disastrous area, and it's bad that it's great that nothing has happened, and that's the way we'd like to keep it, right? Anyway, just telling you that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Robinson?
I'm just wondering, and I don't know if you can do it on a major highway, but you know, the markings on the road to say that it's like for pedestrian crossing and stuff like that. So that, you know, if there's a pedestrian there, that people are expected to stop.
Yeah, in front of Sands, it's really, really bad, and it's super busy. And the traffic, like Melvin said, they're still going 80, if not 90 in that area. You get, and like by the time you'd look up, the car would have already hit you.
Mm-hmm. We can make suggestions, being that it's a provincial highway. I mean, all we can do is make the suggestions.
That's all I know, yeah.
And we may or may not get support for reducing the speed limit even more. I guess it would depend on the OPP's input and also the province's input. But is that something, if that's something council wants to put in a letter, we can certainly direct staff to do it. Oh, sorry.
I could suggest that with what the councilor is saying about the lower speed limit, if the letter is the same, like the zones, those increased zones, and then take the zone that's already 70 and put in your further request that that zone go down to 60, because that's your primary zone, then it would be probably fairly smooth for the ministry, because it would just be changing the signs in the middle and putting signs at the end, so you're starting to slowly reduce the speed.
Yeah. And that is a really good point that Janet brought forward, is taking the passing lanes out of that section of the highway. Because if you slow down to 70 and people are passing you,
Yeah,
there's no sense in putting down the speed limit. That is a really good point that Janet brought forward. Even like passing lanes in that section of that road.
And that would be easy enough to do.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just have to paint a double line.
So why,
Yeah, and
pass
yeah.
it doing 70?
Yeah, and to me, there's no reason to pass in that section of the highway. Do you know, like it's a pedestrian, it's a busy part of the highway, especially in the summertime. I mean, take away the risk, right? Because somebody's always going to say, I can pass in this lane and go ahead and do it. Meanwhile, there's somebody like biking or not paying attention, walking on the side of the road, you know?
So would I add that onto the resolution? Or would
Just,
we have to do
just add it to the letter.
Yeah, just add it to the letter because we're just passing the fact that we want the CAO to draft a letter to send, right? So he can make additions to the letter, I would say.
We get rid of passing lanes.
So the resolution will have to have the further that there be a 60-kilometer speed limit included in that letter and a request to eliminate passing in that complete zone or something like that.
And you know, if you needed a letter of support, I really think the Sands would write you a letter of support. And you know what, maybe even Greystone and maybe even that other kind of convenience store, you know, just before the bridge. I don't know what they're called. You know, they might even write a letter of support or say something.
Even a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah. Quit. Mm.
Let me read back the resolution. That council authorizes the chief administrative officer to draft a letter requesting speed reduction on Highway 60 at Beacon to be reduced between 100 meters prior to Trans Road and 200 meters east beyond McMillan Road, and the letter be sent to Minister Carolyn Mulrooney, and the minister, who's the Minister of Transportation. And further, that a 60-kilometer zone be included and that highway markings that allow passing in this zone be eliminated.
Yeah, sounds good. No.
Shouldn't it be a reduction to 60?
Well, I think you're already covering reduction. I think that was still working.
Okay.
Correct.
Directly explained in the letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this resolution will go to the minister also.
Yes.
Yes.
And it should be CC'd and will be to
All the parties in there.
and the police department. Okay, I will call for the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Heike Schoenfeld,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
I'm yes, that's carried. Thank you very much. I have a resolution that bylaw 2020-67 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for July 24th, 2020, be read a first and second time this 24th day of July 2020. Read a third time and finally passed this 24th day of July 2020. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by
I want to get in the minutes.
seconded by Councillor Heike Schoenfeld.
Thanks.
We'll call for the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Heike Schoenfeld,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. Thank you. I have a resolution that this special meeting of council adjourns at 1:43 p.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
I'll second it.
You gotta move it.
I'll move it. I'll move it. That's even better than the seconder.
Moved by Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Burnt,
Yes.
Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Goodbye. Have a good weekend, everyone.
You
Same to you
too.
again.
Bye.
Bye.